Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Talk Freelance to Me podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Cisneros Mejia, and I hope you're strapped in because today we are going on a journey, a 90s journey with the one and only Maria Ferrer.
Hey, Ashley, girl.
Oh my goodness. I am so excited.
Me too.
To share space with you, Maria. You are such a light. I was telling you before we got on, just your videos, the spiritual love and the kindness that you pour into us, your listeners on your podcast. You've just made an impact on my life. And I just know that people are going to be so excited to get to hear this with you.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you, girl. Like I said, I give you your flowers too, because you are doing your thing. And I think what you're doing with your platform and everything that you're creating and the love and respect you give to other women and, you know, upholding other people, I think is beautiful. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. And so some people know you from your Richard videos and the Zoom, like we're doing now, right? Some of them know you from your 90s nostalgia. I think one of the first videos I saw is when you were making a voicemail or talking about like how we used to do voicemails and we have the music on the boombox or the radio.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. People, if you guys do not know, Maria is first of all, a multi-hyphenate businesswoman. Okay. Some people may know her. I checked before our interview, 447,000 followers on Instagram, another 260,000 on TikTok, plus YouTube. So many people follow you and they may know that part of you. Can you just give us your own introduction to the audience?
Well, I'm Maria Ferrer, the one and only Never Lonely.
Just in case you were wondering.
But yeah, I mean, I guess an influencer. I don't usually use that word, but I just create content. I always say I'm a creator, you know. I do whatever feels right for me. And I've been making content, my videos for the past 2 years. I started in 2021 and it was kind of crazy because prior to that, I had deleted my social media. Like I was just kind of over it. I didn't have a following or anything at that time, but I was just trying to find my niche. You know, I was trying to find like, what am I good at? What am I trying to do here? And nothing really seemed to be working. So once 2020 hit, the pandemic hit, I deleted my social media and I was like, I don't really think it's for me, you know, and I think at the time I had like 2,000 followers or something. And one of my good friends kept saying to me like, but you're like so fun and like you got a great personality and like you're so creative and like you should be posting like your stuff, you're funny. And I was like, oh, I don't think so. I mean, I really was not open to even doing social media. But then one day I was just in the kitchen and cleaning and cooking and listening to my 90s jams. And I'm like, well, I should be recording this. And I literally like just started recording. And then I posted it and it went viral. And I was like, okay, like I'm kind of finding my thing here. So it's crazy. So on top of the content, I've been doing my podcast and, you know, it's a lot of fun. It makes me feel good knowing that there's space for everybody. You know, there's opportunity for everybody, no matter what age, background, where you live. I mean, it's like what you've been through. You can always, you know, live a new dream. You know, you can always dream a new dream. So it's been great.
I love that so much. I'm so glad you came back. I'm so glad you gave social media another chance, you know?
Isn't that crazy? Like
It is.
I was like, no, like my friend was like, you should post. Like, why don't you post like how much you love 90s music? Like every time I hear 90s, I think of you. And I'm like, don't nobody want to see that? Like, who would want to see that?
Turns out a lot of people.
And I remember she was just kind of putting it in my ear, like, you should get back out there, you know, post your stuff. And I was like, I don't know. And then one day I just was moved. And it's crazy how much my life has changed with the past 2 years that I'm like, if I would have never even just did that, I don't know what I'd be doing right now. I'm sure I'd be doing something, but you know.
Yes, no, this is incredible. So tell me about that moment where you went viral. Like, how does that work? Do you just get a bunch of notifications that people love it?
You want to hear something?
Yes.
It was so funny. I didn't even know what was happening when I was going viral because the video was going and I was like, what's happening? Like, and a whole bunch of people started following me and I'm like, who are these people and what they want from me? I was like, I don't know none of these people. Who is this? And then I realized, like, wait, the videos are picking up, like they're going viral. And it was cool. It was like, I don't know, it just felt like magic, really. It was just like, oh my gosh, like people are liking this content. And I think the main thing that I was loving was moms that were like, oh my God, this is so me. This was so funny. This was the laugh that I needed. Like, especially with everything going on in the world. And like I said, this was just coming out of the pandemic, 2021. And it was like, why not bring some cheer to people? You know, I get messages all the time. Like, I'm sitting, like, I remember a message I got that said, I'm in the hospital bed right now and watching your videos in tears, crying, like laughing so hard. Like, I needed this. Thank you so much. Or, you know, I'm going through a really rough breakup or divorce, whatever it may be. I feel like it's just that little nugget of laughter and cheer to bring into somebody's day, you know? And I enjoy doing it. And that's the thing for me is, I always want to make sure things feel right. I'd never want to do something that I feel like I'm forced to do or that I don't feel like serves me. And so I have fun creating my content, you know? So it's fun.
I love it. And so after you got that first couple viral videos, like when did you decide, okay, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to do more. I'm going to, you know, do it on a regular basis. Like, can you walk us through kind of that process where you realize, wait a minute, I could do something with this?
Yeah, I think it was after like a good 5, 10 videos. And honestly, like my creative juices were just going. And that's how I knew I was tapped into something, because I feel like whenever you have that creative block, that writer's block, you don't know, you're unsure, it's time to kind of just be still, you know? And I feel like that's where I was initially before I deleted social media, was I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, should I do makeup videos? But I'm like, I'm not really like, you know, there's a ton of makeup people, like way better. Should I do plus size fashions? What should I do? And I was just trying to find something. And once I kind of found my niche with like, cause I'm all about the music, you know, music is my life, literally. And so, you know, I could tell you who produced something. I could tell you what year it came out. I could tell you the background singers on the track. I could tell you everything. And so when I found that and my creative juices were just flowing, I was constantly having ideas of new content. I was like, this is it for me, you know? And then more and more opportunities started coming. And then even getting recognized in public is like, oh my God, that's a whole other thing. Like, you know?
I can't imagine that.
It's one of those things where you're like, you feel like it's only on the internet, but then like, start seeing you in person, like Maria Bone. I'm like, oh my God, I know I am. So
I love that. That is so, I can't even imagine that. Just walking in the grocery store and people wanting to hug you or, you know, that's cool.
and it's so funny. The first time it like started happening, I was like, oh, why is that person staring at me or whatever? But then I realized they'd be like, oh my God, I love your videos, you know? So now I'm kind of just used to it, you know? It's like, and I always make sure to talk to them and take a photo or whatnot. But honestly, like, it feels like it happened really fast for me, but this is something I've been chasing like my whole life. You know, when I really think of it, it might have been like in a different avenue, but it was something that I've been wanting since I was a teenager. I mean, I've always been into music. I've always been wanting to do something in the music industry, and I just wasn't sure what that was. And I started teaching like music classes and vocal lessons. My company is called Queen Vision Entertainment. I've taken a kind of different direction with that now, but that's where I started. I knew, like, I came out to LA when I was 18 years old. You know, I'm 38 now. And it's like, I just knew I wanted to do something in music. I knew that there was something for me, whether that was working with artists, vocal coaching, or artist development, but that never really seemed to open either, you know? So it's like with this, I feel like just so many opportunities are happening without me forcing them. And that's how I know I'm doing the right thing. And I just say that because so many times we feel like once we hit a certain age, we're over and done. Like, I'm not 20, I'm not 25, I'm in my 30s, I'm in my 40s, it's too late. Like, no, it's not. You can start over at 70, you know what I mean? You can find your thing. You don't ever want to stop. And that's what I'm learning is to keep going, you know, to keep going for those dreams and dream a new dream and keep getting the life that you want to live. You know what I mean?
I love it so much. And when you were talking about doing this, loving music, I think to me, that's one of the things it comes across. It's very authentic content. Like your passion for music, I think is part of what makes your videos even better, because you can tell, and you've shared that. You've shared that you have been a singer all your life, that you sang, you got like a deal, you wrote whole songs, and then teaching people for years, for like 15 years, you've been coaching people and teaching them how to sing. That joy, that appreciation, like, to me, it's not just a music lover, like, you know your stuff. And I think it shines through. I love it so much. And when you were talking about dreams, one of my favorite pieces of content that you've ever shared with us has been in the last couple months when you finally met Bone Thugs and Harmony, all of them, and you were crying. And it was, I mean, you showed us the album that you have at your mom's house with all the pictures and things like that. Can you tell us about that moment, that full circle moment?
Oh my God. Okay. First of all, I have like, you can't see it because it's on the camera, but I have the big old picture of us right here.
I love it.
And it's crazy, right? It's crazy how things manifest no matter how long it takes. Like, I always knew I would meet them someday. I've been a big fan of theirs since I was a kid. You know, my older brother, he put me on to a lot of the 90s rap. And I still remember when he showed me Bone Thugs. I was like 10 years old. And I just was obsessed. Like, I listened to the music all the time. I started collecting photos. You know, back then it was like magazines and stuff. And I collected all their like magazines, made a little bone folder. And I've just always loved them. And so that came across in my videos because I would make videos with like their music, you know, and then I started seeing them liking the content. And I remember the first time Lazy Bone and Busy Bone liked one of my videos, I cried so hard. I was like, oh my God, they saw me, you know? And then it was just like, you know, they started following me and I'm like, oh my God, like that would be really cool to meet them someday. And I just put it out there and I did one video where I was pretending to be Bone in the studio. So it was like me, it was to the Notorious Thugs song, Busy Bone's verse. And I'm like playing all the different people. And that video went super viral. And that's when they reached out like, yo, like you need to come to this concert, like, and meet them and stuff. And all 5 members, because a lot, you know, sometimes it's not all 5 of them. So I was like, oh my God, this is really happening. The thing that I loved about it was I met them exactly how I visualize it to be, but not just as a fan, like they knew me, you know what I'm saying? So that was kind of different too, because it was like, it wasn't just, oh, I'm just a fan who won a contest. Like, you know, like you guys know me. I mean, you know, in the video, Lazy Bones, like, I seen you on TikTok. I seen you on Facebook. Like, you see me.
He said that, yes.
You know, and he was like, man, like your stuff is great. Like you be cracking me up. Like, so I just loved that. It was almost like my way of like bringing them joy. So that was really cool. And that was such a moment for me. I mean, that was one of the most special moments for me because it was like, I was like, 10-year-old Maria Bone is like, yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's crazy how all these years later, they're still relevant. They're still out there doing their thing. They're all like healthy, alive, you know, out here still doing it. So there's no other group like them, you know, so I'm such a fan and I always will be.
I love it. I love it so much. And you have really been the bridge to introduce music that me and you grew up. You know, I'm 40, so I grew up in the same generation as you. And even for these, you know, these Gen Z kids that have never heard of some of these artists. And I feel like after the Bone Thugs video, I feel like I started seeing you do more collaborations. You were with Escape and Silky Fine and just all these different artists. Can you talk about that, like how these collaborations, that's amazing.
That was like, oh my gosh. So going back to what you just said, like, I think that's what's really working for my content is that I am bridging that gap because the older generation, they're not really savvy on the social media. You know what I'm saying? Like they are like TikTok. I don't know what that is, whatever, but I'm like, hey, I'm like kind of bringing you over here, you know, and then bringing this new audience to their music. So I feel like that's where my content comes in. But the first artist I did a collaboration with was Silky Fine. And she just was following me. And I don't even know why I thought of it. But one day I just literally was in the shower and I was like, I should reach out to her and ask if she wants to like do a little video because I wanted to do something to her song. And she was like, girl, say no more. Like, meet me wherever. We met at a little park and stuff and we did the video and it was so funny. Like as soon as we did the video, we did it in one take. as soon as the camera started, we both started crying like, oh my
Oh my
God. Like
gosh.
she needed that. I needed that. You know, like I know what these artists go through and I know how hard the music industry is. And a lot of times you don't get your flowers. And so for somebody like me, I'm like, I want to give all these artists their flowers, you know, and she was the first one. And then it just kind of kept going. But the Bone Thugs one was like the big thing. And then after that, it was like, all these great artists that I was like, oh my God, Escape, Genuine, Corrupt, like, you know, just Silk, 112 Next, you know, just so many. And then even like the freestyle artists, like giving them their flowers too, like the Brenda K stars. And it's been really cool. And it goes back to what you said, like, that's genuinely me. Like, can't nobody copy that. You know, I've had a lot of people kind of take some of my content and steal some of my ideas and stuff, but it's like, this is me. You know what I mean? And you find your thing and you just kind of go with it and it just works. You know what I mean? So yeah, so the collaborations have been a lot of fun. They're really cool to bring people back because they always say, oh my God, I forgot all about this song, or oh, I used to love that song. I just went and downloaded it again. Thank you so much. So again, bridging that gap.
So beautiful. I love it so much. My other favorite is your video about going to New York for LL Cool J's for Rock the Bells. Can you tell us about that? That was really cool to see.
Yeah. And you know, that just goes to show like, make your own opportunities, you know, like just like you reached out to me and just asked, like, again, I always say it's not what's the worst that can happen, but what's the best that can happen? What's the best outcome that can happen? And that's where my mentality is at. Rock the Bells, you know, it's owned by LL Cool J, and they've shared some of my videos before. Like they posted the Bone Thugs video, and I was like, you know what? Why don't I just reach out and ask, like, could we collaborate on something? And I did. And they got back to me like, yes, we'd love to talk to you about a couple things coming up and you'd be the perfect person for this. And they asked me to, you know, come to New York and get footage of the 50th hip hop anniversary for Rock the Bells. I had never been to New York before. That was always a dream of mine. So that was something manifested. And it was just amazing. Like I got to meet not only like the big artists, like you guys saw me with like Method Man and like LL and stuff, but also seeing like the pioneers in like the DJ industry and like the DJ world that like people really don't know, but like back in the 80s, like the people who really put on, it was really amazing. Like the Roxanne Shante, MC Light, like Yo-Yo, like these female rappers, you know, and it was such a great experience. I really was pinching myself the whole time. Like I'm really out here, like, and not on no tourist stuff, you know, like I'm really out here, like on some music stuff, like with these artists that I adore. So that was huge. And again, closed mouths don't get fed. It was me just reaching out like, hey, we should do something. Would love to see how we can collaborate on something. Got at them the correct way. You know, we were talking about that earlier, just the way to communicate, the art of communication and really being professional when you reach out to people. And yeah, and it was great. So I'll always remember that. I feel like that was such a big thing for me this year.
So amazing. It's been so cool for us who have followed you, you know, because some people, maybe they just found out about you through these videos or these collabs. Other people might have found you because of the Richard video or the voicemail video or your kitchen videos where you're cooking. I know. So different people have seen you, have been along at different parts of your journey. It's just so really cool for those of us who've been riding with you for a while to see this acceleration, to see all of this, like, oh my goodness, like we get so much joy from it. And even reading the comments, like I can see, you know, other people that are just like, they're crying when they're seeing your Bone Thugs video and they're losing their minds on LL Cool J too. It's amazing. It's such a cool thing. I love it.
Yeah, it was funny. Like even yesterday, I took my son to go get like frozen yogurt. So we were just sitting there having frozen yogurt and this guy walks up. He's like, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to bother you. And he's like, I love your videos. And he's like, when you met Bone Thugs, I felt like I met Bone Thugs. He was like, my wife is in the car right now freaking out. And I'm like, oh my God. And he was like, you don't know, like that's so inspiring, you know? And I was like, oh, that's so great. So, and I love that it touches everybody. It's almost like I'm not trying to be inspirational or anything. You just are. You just, you know, and sometimes I don't even, like sometimes I'm just tunnel vision. I'm just, you know, I got my head down and I'm just doing what I need to do. I'm not reading the comments. I'm not looking for the applause. I'm just being, I'm just existing. I'm just doing what I know, what feels true to me. You know what I'm saying? So, and the fact that it does inspire people, like I saw this one creator and I can't remember her name, but she was in her car singing to like a Mariah song and she sounded so beautiful. And I just hit, like, and I told her, I was like, yes, and she responded with a comment like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. Like, you're the one that inspired me to post my videos, and I was like, oh my God, like, that's so great. Like, and I just loved that. I loved that because she saw my videos, she felt like she could do that in her way as well. And like, that's what it's all about, that's the highest exchange, is to inspire somebody. So I love that.
You can tell that. I think that's part of your magic, or like why, because you're right. I've seen other people who are imitating, some of your style, your theme, or they're trying to, and it just does not hit the same way. And I feel like that authenticity, like your approach to even social media, like you touched on it, that you're focused on what you want to say when it comes down, when you have that inspiration, and you're not really worried. You're not really looking for what the response will be. You're putting it out there because the inspiration strikes. And I feel like maybe, can you talk about that? Because I know you're a private person. It's interesting because I feel like you have been able to create that intimacy or that friendship with us, your audience, and that we know about your son, we know about your dog, we know about your, Mix, may rest in peace. We know about what you've allowed us to see, but you also set your boundaries with social media. And I haven't seen other influencers of your caliber do that the way that you have. Can you talk about how you approach social media differently than maybe other people?
Yeah, I think with social media, there is no privacy these days, and it's an art. People put all their business out there and they put all their feeling one way one day and they post all their emotional things. I think for me, I've learned how to control my emotions. That's one part of it. So it's not, well, let me go and rant on Instagram about how I'm feeling today. Like, I've learned to process things in a different way. And I feel like there's just some stuff is just not people's business. You know what I mean? And I just feel like this is what works for me. This is my brand. This is what I'm focusing on. So I don't need to show what I ate today or where I'm going or, and I see it happen with a lot of influencers. They'll post their relationship and how great their partner is. And then a week later, they're no longer with that person. And I just feel like, I believe evil eye is real. I believe people, will watch you and really not support you, but they watching everything that you do. So I'm like, I don't need to post all my business, all the time. And I find it good to be just kind of low key, and just post what I feel like posting and share what I feel like sharing. But it's a balance, and I think more and more people would find be a little bit more centered if they could just learn how to be a little bit more private in the way that they move and stuff. But as far as like how others may steal your content or whatnot, like it used to bother me in the beginning, like when I would see somebody completely copy my thing and I'd be like, wait a minute. But then I realized like that's short-lived. You can take that, you ain't got no other idea. I'm gonna constantly be creating, you know what I'm saying? So, and I have to look at it as they were inspired by something. They were inspired by it. They thought they could do it too. And if they can, great, find your own niche and find your own lane or whatever. I want to see us all win at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? But I think it just is that balance of like just having your own thing and your personal life personal, and you don't got to share every aspect of your life, because then you just open up the door to everyone having an opinion about every single thing you're doing. And then you question yourself. You got to know thyself, no other person's influence or opinion about something should influence the way that you feel about something, so yeah, so it's a journey, girl.
Super cool. Super, super cool. So this podcast is, a lot of the audience are mothers like us, women. Some of the women, are caregivers. So maybe they don't have kids, but maybe they take care of their niece or nephew or a loved one, a parent. And they're all about how to do business kind of your way. Like, how do you work for yourself? Can you talk about this brand that you created now and how your business is structured now? I know that you have Queen Vision Entertainment, you're taking it a new level. Can you talk to us about some of those how you organize your business now?
Yeah, well, I think definitely I'm all about entrepreneurship. I think everybody, and some people might not be cut out for entrepreneurship, but I think in this day and age, everybody can have a little side hustle. Everybody can have a little business that they're trying to, a small business, especially in this economy and the way that things are working. When I started Queen Vision, this was 14, 15 years ago, I had just got laid off from a job, and that was my second time getting laid off in like a matter of a year. And I was like, okay, this ain't it. Like, I need to do something for me so that nobody can take that away from me. And I remember thinking like, well, what am I good at? What am I good at? And, this is a different time. There was no social media like that. And I just remember thinking, well, I love music and I know all about music, and maybe I can start teaching some music lessons and vocal lessons and, artist development and stuff. And I just put a Craigslist ad out, and, I started getting a couple phone calls. I started reaching out to some people like, hey, if you know anybody looking for some singing lessons, some music lessons, like, reach out. And I built it from there. And even in that, I was still looking for some other things like, okay, well, what else can I be doing? What more can I be doing? And that's when the social media stuff hit. And I'm all about just learning to grow with it and be independent and think for yourself and not be afraid to try different things, and get rid of the people who aren't supporting you. Like I remember speaking to a friend and saying like, I really want to start, these videos are starting to go, maybe I should post more. Like, and she was like, oh, well, I don't know. Do you think that, isn't that like weird? Like, and I was like, all right, you know what? You gotta go.
Goodbye.
Bye, girl. But I was like, I want to surround myself with the people who are like, yes, you can do this. And I don't set limitations on myself. And I just feel like just making your own opportunity. Don't be afraid to ask, like reach out, talk to some people. Like I know a lot of people who will just say, oh, well, I'm trying to reach out. I reached out once and I didn't hear from them. And, and it's like, no, dude, you got to hustle, like be persistent, like, reach out to these people. You don't just send one email and give up. I mean, you got to reach out again. Hey, circling back, would still love to, whatever it might be. And then if it's like, it's not working out, then, you move on to something else, but be persistent, work hard and put in that work. And like I said, just tunnel vision. But again, I'm all about entrepreneurship. I think that this is the time more than ever. We have so many resources literally at our fingertips on our phones that you could make a podcast, you could create content, you could sell things, you can, there's so many avenues to it. So all about just thinking outside of the box.
That's so cool. And I love, speaking of podcasts, you mentioned you can make a podcast, you can get your voice out there. Your podcast is incredible. It's one of my favorites. It actually is part of the reason I have a podcast.
Oh, that's amazing.
Absolutely. I would listen to your podcast while I would wash dishes. I have 3 kids, so I would put them to bed, do bath time, all that stuff. And I would have it on the counter and I'd wash dishes and get lunches ready and everything. And it was funny because my husband would walk by sometimes and, and I love your podcast because whatever's on your heart, whatever your download from the universe, from God, that's what you speak about. And it always comes at the right time. And your delivery is just so it's like a friend. It's very warm. And my husband would be like, who are you on speakerphone with? Or who are you on the phone with? Like, he was like, oh, I was like, oh, it's a podcast. And I love that I re-listened to a couple of the earlier episodes. And I love that you were sharing about business. You were sharing about business etiquette, in addition to the fun stuff like repelling the dusties and, all the stuff that's just fun. But, telling us about reminding us to step into our feminine, that, it's okay to allow people to help you. Communication. I remember when you were talking about when you were starting the vocal coaching business, how at the beginning, when you did it in your home, you still treated it like it was a Hollywood business. Like you had preparation, you had the waters. I remember you were saying you had waters for your guests, your students. And the knowledge that you've imparted in the podcast has been so powerful. Can you talk about where you get the inspiration for these topics? Because you talk about a variety of things on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because sometimes I'm not sure about the podcast. Like, I'm like, does anybody listen to this thing? Because it's totally different from content, like the videos. You know what I mean? It's a totally different thing. And so I'm always like, does anybody care about this? But the thing that's cool about the podcast is it's one of those things that once you put it out, it's just out. Like people will find it a year later. People will find that episode 6 months down the road. It's like, and they'll go, oh my God, I love the podcast. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's not like when you first post something and you're waiting for it to like gain traction. A podcast is like, it'll always just be there. But for me, I don't do very well with structured, like, I don't want to feel like I have to be on my podcast every Monday at 10 a.m. Like I just don't work well with that, because I feel like I'm not being authentic. Like I want things to really come from a place where I'm like, this is on my heart, this is on my mind, I got something to say. Because I have plenty of times gotten behind my microphone and go, no, I don't want, why did I, delete? Like, I don't want to talk about that. So it really just has to feel genuinely like this is something that somebody needs to hear. And it's just whatever's on my mind. It's whatever's on my heart. And I love when I get the messages of people saying that really resonated with me. And something that I do hear often is that they, just like you said, they go back and listen to the old episodes, or something else resonated after hearing it a second time. It's like reading a book. Like, you read the book once, you read it again, you take something else away from it. So I appreciate that. But the podcast is great. And it's so easy. I think a lot of people can easily make a podcast. And if you feel like you have something to say, it's time to put something out there and get that going. The podcast is great. It's very, people are always looking for something. We're always searching for some type of inspiration, whether you're going on YouTube to look up a recipe or a cleaning video or something. Like, we're always looking for something. So why not be one of those people who created it and put it out there, So yeah, so the podcast is great. It's a great community. And again, I just want to feel like it's coming from a genuine place and not like a forced topic. Because I've heard podcasts like that and I'm like, I'm checked out.
So good. So good, Maria. I know so many women like us who, are busy moms, and we got to also generate income. What advice would you give to those ladies who are listening, who are looking at how you structured your life? You designed your life intentionally where you have your business and you're able to homeschool your son now. What can other women do when they're maybe trapped in this 9-to-5 that's toxic, or that doesn't allow them flexibility that they need to show up the way they want to as moms?
Yeah, I think the main thing is to get clear on like a goal, like really kind of think, what is it that you would be, and be honest with yourself. If you're thinking, I would actually really be happy being a stay-at-home mom and not having to work full time. Sometimes we can't even really say it out loud what it is that we really want. Like, we're kind of like, I'm not sure, like, but no, like, really get clear on what it is that you want. And when I started homeschooling my son, it had been like a good 2 years that I was thinking like, oh, I wish I had the flexibility to just be able to homeschool and create this life that I really want. I don't want to be hustling and bustling. Like, there's the days for that, but I put in a lot of work. I've been doing that for 15 years that I'm like, I'm ready to rest now and kind of do the things that just really bring me joy. And, there's so many factors to it. You want to make sure that you don't just up and quit your job. I mean, you have to make sure that you have a plan intact, right? Because I've seen that happen too, where, somebody's so stressed from their job, but then quitting their job and having no income is a whole nother stress. So that's, again, coming out with a plan, writing things down, like write down your goals, write down the craziest thing that you could think of, like write it down, like what you would really want, and not the limitation to it, but like, what is it that you really want? And that's where I started really getting a clear vision for that. I was like, I want to do more of this. I want to do more of my content. I want to do this. And it's allowed my schedule to open up to do the things like homeschool my son and stuff. But it takes discipline. It takes diligence to make sure that you know what you're doing. But anything is possible.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maria. You are just a wealth of knowledge. I mean, when you talk about being a creator, you are really a creator, because you have been creating music and songs and clothes and your business and videos. So what's next for Maria Ferrer? Is there a dream collaboration or a dream project that we can look forward to next from you?
I don't want to speak on things like that.
Yeah, I know that's not your style.
But no, I'm all about just, I was just having this conversation the other day where I was like, okay, what's next? And I just wrote down all the things that I'm like, I want to do more of this. I want to do more of that. Like, I'm having a really good time hosting. Like, I just did some hosting for a couple of concerts, and that was great. I mean, when I was up there, I was like, this is it. This feels like home. I would love to continue to host and do things like that. And just keep building the brand, keep building my empire and everything that I'm doing. I'm open to whatever the universe and God brings to me. And I just know that the energy that you put out there is the energy that you receive back, So I try to keep myself on that high frequency and rid of the things that don't serve me and that I feel like have, served its purpose. And I'm just going to continue elevating and to grow and inspire others. And that's really what it's all about.
I love it so much. And you've inspired a whole, literally hundreds and thousands of people, from your home, from your phone, literally, like you've touched so many lives, and it's so powerful to see. So if somebody who's listening again is under a rock and they are not following you already, where can people find you online to get more of your content?
So y'all can follow me at Maria Ferrer Curves on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and would love to have your support. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Maria Ferrer.
Girl, thank you, Ashley. You are fantastic. And like I told you before the show, I said this to her off camera, y'all, but I let her know that this was like the first interview I even considered doing, because I get so many messages, and the way that people get at you is so unprofessional. And it's like, give me a little something more than just, hey, you want to be on my podcast? It's like, introduce yourself. Like, let me know a little bit something about you. What's your podcast about? But Ashley got at me with such a beautiful email. It was so well written. I just was like, oh my gosh, like finally somebody came correct, and I just loved it. I thought you were doing something amazing. I love that you're using your platform. I love that you're uplifting and inspiring women as well, and people in general. So I think this was perfect, and I'm thankful for even being on your show. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Maria. I'm going to have to print that out and put it on a t-shirt.
Yes, girl.
Yay. And with that, we've come to the end of another episode. Please make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already done so, and give me a 5-star review on Apple. This will help out a lot in getting the word out about this brand new podcast. I invite you to check out the show notes and also grab my free Niches Get Riches freelance writing worksheet to brainstorm the best niches for your writing business. If you're not a writer, you can still use it to get business ideas. And until next time, this is Ashley at Talk Freelance to Me. Don't forget, we all get this one precious life. Don't constrain yourself to a box that you were never meant to fit in. It is your right to profit from your own creative gifts. This podcast was created by Ashley Cisneros Mejia. Our music was composed by Donna Rafael of World Instrumentals. Talk Freelance to Me is a product of Phoenix Creative Studio.